Okay, Faith, here we are today to do some more operations of your reading. Again, I'm sorry that it's been a few days. Easter was crazy for me. Very glad it's over. So hopefully I can get through at least 2 and 3 tonight. I just also reviewed for myself the information that was in your first reading and sort of checked what the cards had said against what you had told me. And a lot of it makes a lot more sense now, which is good. So to begin Operations 2, or Operation 2 rather, we're going to pull your significator out again, place her on top. I invoke thee, Iao, that thou wilt send ahead of the great angel who art set over the operations of the secret wisdom, that he may lay his hand invisibly upon these consecrated cards of art, and that thereby we may obtain true knowledge of hidden things, to the glory of thine ineffable name. Amen. And this operation, of course, just to explain it to you, is based on the 12 astrological houses, which are slightly different from the signs. They describe the area of your life that the situation will next affect, or the area that it will next develop in. I suppose makes more sense. From your last reading, too, I just gathered, going over it, too, I wonder, because we haven't really talked about what your career is. I don't believe you've told me in any of your emails. And I don't know if it does have to do with money or financial stuff, financial planning or something like that. Because you do seem to be surrounded by cards that would indicate that sort of thing. It also seems that the man's daughter is really the only thing that's keeping that relationship together, which is, of course, understandable. She probably takes more after him than she does after the mother, but the mother seems equally sort of distant and disinterested, which is interesting. But either way, you do sort of have to, in some ways you are kind of competing with her, and I think that's why the Five of Wands came up. You know, I thought that it was at first, you know, you were having some sort of issue with her in a workplace kind of setting. And it's not that sort of competition, it's more competition over this, this guy. And of course it isn't a blatant one, it's not, you know, anything that's come to any real fruition, but I suppose from a technical standpoint you could consider it that. At least that's how it chose to represent it, so who knows. Now we have to deal into the 12 piles. This always takes a little bit of time. Again, I hope you can see I have a little reading light clipped to my laptop so you can hopefully see my room. It's kind of dark. And of course, it's always tricky to see all of these, but I'll do my best here to talk about as much of what's relevant as possible. At this point, when you get all of these piles, it's why the Golden Dawn really only has you read the pile that the significator is in. I know that some readers like to use all of these piles to glean information, but when you're trying to focus on one issue, or sort of the main trajectory of an issue, it doesn't seem wise to me to go all over the place hunting for details that may or may not even be remotely relevant, ultimately. The Golden Dawn was pretty smart about the way they came up with all this, in my opinion. It's just, it's overwhelming to begin with, the amount of data you get from doing one of these, that really I feel like people should just kind of keep it fairly simple. At least that's my approach. I just hope you can hear me well with all that. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Well, based on your previous reading, or rather based on your previous operation, we might guess that you are in a pile sort of like this one, the House of Virgo. And you are not. You could also be in something like, well, you could be in Taurus, not in the second house either. The one thing, though, the Golden Dawn would have a stop at this point, because I didn't guess correctly. Of course, I don't follow that rule, because I think it's a little much, frankly. You could also be, you could be in Capricorn. I'm going to try all the Earth piles first. You're not in any of the Earth piles, which means that this situation is going to sort of shift away from a materialistic standpoint. Because, of course, the last operation was focused on the Earth pile. So we're moving away from Earth and moving into a different sphere. I sort of hate to tell you this, but you have a friend who may pass in the fairly near future, and it doesn't entirely say from what, but possibly from, I don't want to say alcoholism, but even maybe drunk driving or something. But you have in the eighth house, which is the house of death and sex, you have the Prince of Wands, and he is aspected by the Ten of Swords and the Ten of Cups. It's really not a good combination in that house. It is like, I don't usually say this, because I don't like to worry people, but there may be something to look out for in the immediate future for that. And the Three of Cups is in here too, which isn't sort of aspected by the moon, which is sort of why I suggested alcoholism of some kind or drug abuse of some kind. The Prince of Wands would be a very bold person that you know, very outgoing male, perhaps younger than yourself to some extent, but kind of outgoing, adventurous, possibly likes to travel a lot and have new and kind of brash experiences. So I of course hope that that doesn't happen, but this would indicate that it is fairly likely. Um, where is your significant other? Let's see. Not in that pile. Let's try Aquarius. Okay, you're in the Aquarius pile, or rather, the 11th house would be the more appropriate way of describing it. And all the other piles technically are not as relevant. And being in the 11th house, Faith, your situation is going to move more into, I suppose, a social kind of thing. Either, I mean, the man that we were talking about in the previous operation does not seem to be present in this phase of the reading. So it seems like we're going to move beyond that for the time being. And you're going to focus a little bit more on perhaps your social life, but also groups that you're a part of. The situation is going to move into there's a sphere of your life that has to do with groups and societies that you're part of. So it does very much have to do with your social life, but the 11th house is often associated with like clubs and organizations that you're a part of, teams that you're a part of. It can also be, you know, a corporation if you work for one, anything kind of like that. But let's see what we've got. So you're here, of course. I'm going to try to tilt this a little bit so you can kind of see. Okay, so you're here, and you are surrounded by art and the Queen of Wands. So it seems to me that you're going to, either, I think you're going to work with this other woman very closely who is kind of quite different from yourself. She's got, sort of like the Prince of Wands as we were talking about before. She has a very big personality, a very magnetic personality. She draws attention to herself very easily. She's very kind of boisterous, a little egotistical, but generally a very good soul. And it seems that you're going to partner up with her in some way. Now, okay, this is a very short string because we count to the Four of Cups and then we count back to you. The problem that I'm getting here is that you are not entirely going to be entirely satisfied with with someone who is in charge, and it could become slightly aggressive, but not entirely. I think it's more there's if I had to say, I would say that there's probably a man in charge of whatever project it is that you're going to be working on with this lady here. He is probably very aggressive by nature. Well, yes and no. He does have art next to him, which could mean that he has a fairly moderate personality, but that's not usually the case with the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords is very direct and is very aggressive, and sort of like once he makes up his mind, he just goes in that one direction and doesn't know how to go in any other direction. He can be a little inflexible. once he has determined what is right and what is wrong for based on his opinion. And it seems that you're not going to be entirely satisfied with the way that he is running and organizing things, particularly because it seems that it will have some sort of effect on whatever partner work you're going to be doing with this Queen of Wands character here. And that's the end of the string. It's very, very short. So it seems that this issue is what we're going to start focusing on in the immediate future. If we pair from you, you're going to get along very well with this Queen of Wands person. You're going to be probably pretty good friends. You're going to work well together. And the ideas that you have together and the plan that you come up with together is going to be really strong. You're going to have great work chemistry with this person. Now, this other man, the Knight of Swords, is definitely someone who is in charge of whatever operations the two of you have been charged with. He's in charge, and overall it's resulting in sort of general dissatisfaction. Like, it's going to sort of deflate your bubble a little bit, because I know that you're sort of riding this wave of great enthusiasm in this situation, because I know that you feel like you're doing something that you're really passionate about, that you really are interested in doing, and it's also sort of a way for you to move on and kind of create a new life for yourself after the debacles of with your estranged husband. So this is going to sort of put a bit of a downer on things, I suppose. But I do think that it's very positive, at least, that you're going to have a good friend and ally in this Queen of Wands person, as a friend and as a colleague. You're going to do really good work with her, I can tell. And that's sort of it for the second operation. It's very simple, this one. 2 and 3 are both very short operations, generally speaking. So we can go on now to the third operation, and it's going to go in much the same fashion. Just get a drink. I invoke thee, Ea, that thou wilt send Heru, the great angel, who hath sat over the operations of the secret wisdom, that he may lay his hand invisibly upon these consecrated cards of art, and that thereby he may obtain true knowledge of hidden things, to the glory of thine ineffable name. Amen. Okay. I'm going to ask for the third operation, the same question, which is under the precedence of the 12 signs of the zodiac, which are only really slightly different from the houses of the zodiac. It's a little strange when you do the opening of the key for the second and third operations, because really, the difference between the houses and the signs is so minuscule, really. The houses get their meanings based on the signs that rule them, so it doesn't really make for much of a distinction between operations, in my opinion. But it is helpful to reflect on whatever major arcana card is associated with the sign that your significator is in, the pile that your significator is in. And that can sometimes be helpful, whereas we cannot do that, of course, with the houses. You know, it's funny thinking about that previous reading, and I don't know, because we had talked about the Prince of Wands in the 8th house, and how you're going to be working with the Queen of Wands. I mean, I sort of doubt it. I didn't get this vibe, but I don't know if those two things are connected or going to be connected. Rather, I don't believe so. I really don't. I just think that they have similar personality. But sometimes in readings like this, court cards that share the same suit family do represent actual familial connections. At least that's what I've found sometimes. But I don't think that that's quite the case here. There weren't enough things to indicate that. Okay. Cut. Almost done. Alright, so now for the 12 signs. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, and your significant came right up. Yeah, that guy that we were just talking about, the Knight of Swords, your boss or your overseer, supervisor rather, not overseer. That's not the sorry, it's late for me to be doing this. But your boss or your supervisor that the Knight of Swords is representing here definitely is going to have some decision to make regarding your work. But you're right here in that the pile associated with Virgo, the Hermit. And so you might need to take some time off from this situation because or rather take some time off from whatever project it is that you're going to be working on with that Queen of Wands person. Because again, having the pressure of that this guy over here kind of hounding you a little bit is going to make you a little dissatisfied, and so you might take a bit of time off from it, or kind of back off from it a bit. Maybe that's what the Hermit is getting at. So all these other piles we get rid of. That was interesting too. Let me look at that. Huh. It may be that your marriage finally kind of ends, in around this time as well, because you do have the lovers associated with death, and in fact, death is right next to it as well. So there is a small chance that, or rather, more than a small chance, that that your relationship with your your husband will finally expire for good. Let's see. Okay, so now we have the Queen of Wands again in here. You were in. Oh, that's right. You were in Virgo. Okay. The sign of prudence and practicality, also growth and development, which is interesting. Of cultivation and harvest. So you're here, of course, right at the top. And so the development that's going to happen is likely to do with yourself and self-development, because being the cover card, you literally are the theme of whatever development is going to happen. That's what you're going to be working on, is yourself. And it could be because you do have the Five of Swords next to you, and it doesn't seem. Oh boy. Well, I might have spoken too soon about the Queen of Wands. It seems like the Queen of Wands might not entirely be so great in the long run. She might stab you in the back somehow. I would not, just based on this, I would not entirely trust her as you work with her. Uh, Again, it's so strange because in the previous operation, as we said, you will work very well with her at first, but now in this operation we have between you, we have the Five of Swords, which is the card of betrayal. So that's a little strange. That sends off warning flares. But let's see. You have here this idea of not doing so well as far as, well, I mean, something will not have gone your way, and you may end up getting thrown under the bus a little bit. 2, 3, 4. Oh, excuse me again. Now, the Queen of Wands seems to be a fairly ambitious person, and perhaps even one who is very, very focused on achieving a certain kind of goal that she has in mind, and perhaps, well, I don't know if you're going to get in the way of that somehow, and, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So the Nine of Wands, we hit the Devil, and the Devil is coming out of the conflict between the Four of Cups, okay, the Four of Cups, and the Nine of Wands. Yeah, it's interesting. I think she she may become a little frustrated with you because of your kind of apathy about the project that you're working on, because she seems very into it and very motivated to reach this particular goal. And I think you do too. You just have a different way of expressing it, because you do count to the Nine of Wands. I mean, it's not that you don't take it seriously. I just think it doesn't interest you quite as much at this point. Or again, because of that King of Swords or Knight of Swords guy rather that we were talking about, your boss. Whatever your boss is going to do to sort of make this not as enjoyable for you, I think that might get in your way and possibly cause some issues with your working relationship with this Queen of Wands. She's going to become very focused on the job itself. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that is in turn what is going to get you in trouble with her. It's definitely, well, it's interesting. I can read it one of I can read it two ways. I can either see it as the Five of Swords is negatively affecting you, the Queen of Discs, and the Queen of Wands sort of steps in and levels the playing field and sort of comes to your aid a little bit. But really, that's not quite how it usually works. Because the Five of Swords is still the central card no matter what way you spin it. And so there is some sort of defeat that she is, on your part, that she is contributing to in some fashion. And it does seem connected to, again, the Four of Cups. This sort of almost dissatisfaction with the amount of material success that you will have gained through this. I'm not quite sure here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We end up in a cycle of the Five of Swords and the Four of Cups sort of going in a loop here, which isn't good. It's sort of like all this passion that we've talked about in the first operation seems to have totally fizzled out at this point. And you just don't seem all that invested in the path you've elected. It seems more like I just don't think that your heart is going to be quite as into it after a point. And I think that hers is. And again, that could cause some problems for you. The lack of being on the same page with her is not going to be effective for you. It's not going to be good for you. Excuse me. Now, part of it might have to do also with money, particularly new money, and I'm not sure what that means exactly, but the Five of Swords is paired with the Ace of Discs, and so it would indicate that this conflict, this sort of defeat that you might suffer at possibly at the hands of the Queen of Wands, might have something to do with some sort of financial thing. Some sort of new money is just the most I can say about it. The Ace of Discs is pretty ambiguous, as are all the aces. But, it is definitely clear, though, that the Queen of Wands doesn't have a lot of patience for sort of apathy. She doesn't like apathy because she's very geared towards this goal. She's just very set on this path, on this goal that she has for herself and for this project, and she really is fairly. She's kind of one mind. She doesn't really seem at this point to be open to other voices. She seems to have a very my way or the highway approach to all this. And, I, excuse me. I think eventually you're just very simply your relationship is going to turn a little sour. Now, to connect this back to Virgo, that's sort of the tricky thing here, because this does all have to do with the Hermit. And it could be that this is going to be a moment that is going to cause you to reflect on basically, I think, whether or not this is really what you're supposed to be doing, and whether or not there isn't something else you could be doing. Alternatively, it could not mean that at all. I mean, it's a bit extreme. But I do this one is just so heavy. It's sort of the darkest of all the readings that we've done so far. The first operation was fairly neutral, and the last one was fairly neutral too. And you started off with that strong relationship with, or working with relationship, of course, with the Queen of Wands, and now it just really, she just seems very determined and focused and a little ruthless in some ways. She's getting a little, I kind of want to say she's getting a bit big for her britches, but uh, perhaps not. She seems a little egotistical, and that's not uncommon for the Queen of Wands at all. She seems just very ambitious, a person, whereas you are probably still in the process of figuring things out. Uh, again, that Virgo part, the Hermit part, I think this is sort of a learning experience for you. And in some ways, I don't want to say a coming of age thing, but it's definitely, it's a life lesson, I think, for sure. This experience with this woman. At least I think. It could also just have to do with pragmatism and, possibly you want to do something with this new money. I don't, it's awfully confusing. Excuse me. I just don't. I can definitely say though that you are not doing all so well in this phase of the reading. You do have the Five of Swords next to you, and it is bogging you down. It is affecting you fairly adversely. And to sort of remedy the situation is the Ace of Discs, which is some kind of bonus, and it could either be a literal bonus, a check kind of bonus. It can also be taking a vacation, to sort of recharge yourself. It can be any of those sorts of things. And I don't think it really even matters defining it right now. The Ace of Discs is kind of one of those things that will manifest itself when you choose to make it manifest. So I think either way, in order to deal with some sort of defeat, you're going to want to recharge your batteries a bit. And of course, I think that's what's just it's the Queen of Wands is going to interpret it the wrong way, because she is going to feel like, well, we have all this work to do, and we've got this almost like a quota to meet, and it's going to feel like you're not willing to put in that work or something like that to her, even though that's not quite what it's about. And again, it might have something to do with the if I was correct in saying that you might finally get divorced, it might have something to do with that. Possibly you might find yourself distracted by that and unable to work to your fullest capacity, and she kind of selfishly might not entirely regard that or consider that, if that makes sense. You know, if we, I sort of already paired, yeah. I think that's sort of it. I think you've just got to be careful around her. And I think with the Queen of Wands, the sense that I get is just let her know that you do take the work seriously. Whatever project it is you're going to be working on with her, whatever endeavor it is you're going to be partners with her on, just be willing to reassure her that you do take it seriously, that you take her work seriously and your own work seriously, because I think having such a Capricorny aspect to the Queen of Wands here, I think she's very serious about her work, and she wants to make sure that it comes out the way that she intends. And I just think that whatever issues you end up having with her are going to be based on that. And I hope that makes sense. You might even know the Queen of Wands already. You might not know her yet. It's sort of difficult to tell. If it sounds like someone familiar, please let me know. I think I'm going to stop for tonight just because I can feel myself kind of fading here. And I don't want to kind of go into La La Land here and give you a less than accurate reading. So let me know what you think of the second and the third operations, if they make sense to you, if you have anything you can add, if some of these trends are starting to happen, if you recognize any of them, any of the story elements, please let me know. It's always nice to receive feedback, especially the the kind of feedback that you've been giving has been really detailed, and I actually like that because it does allow me to kind of confirm, to go back and confirm certain things in the reading, and to get a clearer picture of what it's been trying to say. So, so yeah, so let me know, and I'm going to post this as another unlisted video, and I will email you the link shortly. Okay? Thank you very much for your patience, and I'll try to get the fourth and fifth operation done as soon as I possibly can. I have some more time on my hands now, so I should be able to do it soon enough. Okay, thank you very much, Faith, and I hope you enjoyed. If you celebrate Easter or Passover or anything like that, I hope that you had a nice weekend and are enjoying the spring weather finally. So thank you very much, and talk to you soon. Bye bye.